It's really cute that you think throwing the weird queer folk under the bus will save you from people who think you need to be thrown in a cell just for existing. First of all, I'm not calling anybody weird or throwing anybody under a bus. As for being thrown in a cell just for existing, homosexuality has been decriminalized for decades in the US. And in the UK, it was in 1967 when they legalized sodomy. Shut up. You wouldn't have the freedoms you have now if it weren't for trans people, you selfish, vapid troll. Last month, I posted a 15-second video on my TikTok and Instagram about what I refer to as the LGBTQIA PSYOP, and it garnered 142,000 views and over 1,800 comments, and a lot of those were angry hate comments. And I'm going to play you that video now, but I've had to mute the sound because in the video I'm lip syncing to Whitney Houston's "Didn't We Almost Have It All," but we're not allowed to use copyright music here on YouTube. So the words I'm lip syncing the video are "Didn't we almost have it all when love was all we had worth giving." I'm not going to sing it. I'm not going to embarrass myself by butchering the Whitney Houston song. So you'll just have to imagine it in your head. And the words I typed in my caption are "old school gay, lesbian and trans folk mourning the acceptance we had before the divisive LGBTQIA plus PSYOP reigned all over our parade." Many of you understood what I meant and posted supportive comments agreeing with my sentiment. But a far greater number of commenters either misunderstood my point or disagreed with me and attacked me for it. But I thought the lyrics were quite appropriate because I'm referring to the fact that we almost had it all. We almost achieved full acceptance as gays and lesbians and bis and trans. The LGBT movement made such great progress over the last few decades up until the mid-2010s when everything started going downhill because of what I refer to as the LGBTQIA PSYOP. And I feel we achieved more or less total acceptance, aside from the small minority of bigots who will never accept us, but we can't worry about them because you can't change their minds. So yeah, didn't we almost have it all when love was all we had worth giving? Because our movement was all about love, about the right to love who we want to love without being judged for it. The concept of gay pride or LGBT pride back in the day was all about love and tolerance and acceptance. But I feel that the current LGBTQIA plus movement, with all of the extremism that it's embraced, has taken us back by decades to a place where we are now once again being mocked and hated by the masses. But I don't blame the people for this, the members of this huge community, but the PSYOP that has been put on all of us. Because I feel that Western media and governments deliberately grouped us all together, all of these diverse people from so many different walks of life, under this one massive umbrella term, and imposed on us a set of beliefs, a type of enforced groupthink. And over the last few years, the LGBT movement has been represented unfairly by a small group of very loud, intolerant activists who have been given the platform to speak on our behalves, while those of us who don't agree with what they're saying have been deplatformed and silenced and vilified. And as a result, we are now in the situation we are in, where the average person is just fed up of anything LGBT. And this is why I speak up, because I feel that all of us who are rational and moderate and compassionate need to denounce all of the craziness that has taken over the LGBT movement and salvage our dignity and respect while we still can. So I'd like to share and respond to a handful of the comments that I received in no particular order, but let's get started. It's actually insane that you can't see the writing on the wall that this country had an intense shift to the right and everyone is losing freedoms, not just you. I don't think I mentioned anything about losing freedoms myself. I don't feel I've lost any freedoms. I did mention that our acceptance has gone down, that support for gay marriage has gone down, but I don't believe we've lost any freedoms. However, yes, obviously I do see that there's been an intense shift to the right, and I'm one of those people who's been pushed to the right. I've always been left of center most of my life if I had to choose a point somewhere on the scale, although I think it's a very crude scale. But the behavior of the woke modern left over the last few years and the creeping authoritarianism among the left since the pandemic has pushed a lot of us over to the right. So yes, there was an intense shift to the right, but I don't believe that we lost any freedoms. In fact, it was our loss of freedoms that pushed many of us over to the other side. Many lifelong leftists voted the other way in support of freedom. Continuing with the comment, blaming the most vulnerable people in your community instead of facing the reality that people will hate that community no matter how you act or present yourselves. If those in power stack the odds against you is peak delusion. This is an example of somebody who didn't understand my post. I wasn't blaming any of the members of our community, but the psyop that you seem oblivious to. And part of that psyop is what you've expressed here, that people will hate that community no matter how you act or present yourselves. Because people don't hate us. This is something that you've been brainwashed to believe. This is part of the psyop that I challenge, the sense of victimhood, a false sense of victimhood that everybody hates you. It's an us versus them mentality that everybody who is not a part of your group, whether that's leftists or LGBT, everybody who's outside of that group despises you, and it's just not true. Please see reality and stop sowing the very division you're pretending to criticize. The reason I criticize is not to sow division, but to highlight the division that is being sown. You obviously don't understand where I'm coming from, but I suppose you've not engaged with the rest of my content. So perhaps you've just taken this post at surface value without really understanding the message. Or maybe you have watched my other videos and you object to everything I say. I don't know. Next comment. I'm so encouraged when I see rational thought from people of all walks. Yes, the vast majority have no qualms with sexual preference, but the dangerous and disturbing indoctrination and mutilation of children. Keep on keeping on, Broheim. Thank you for that. I too am so encouraged when I see rational thought from people of all walks. And that is part of the problem here, is that we are people of all walks, but woke identity politics has slapped superficial labels on everybody to highlight all of our differences. So instead of being one unified population of people from all walks, we are a divided population, divided by our labels and conditioned to believe that everybody from outside of our group is against us. And I agree with you that most people really don't care, except, as I said earlier, for a small minority of bigots who we will never change, but they don't matter. The vast majority of the population doesn't have any issue with who we choose to love, but they do have issues with what you've pointed out here. I've spoken repeatedly about the dangers of teaching children that because they don't conform to gender stereotypes, that they are potentially trapped in the wrong body, and the only way to correct this is through medicalization and possibly surgeries. I don't believe that any child is trapped in the wrong body, because there is no correct way to be a boy or a girl. And this is the opinion of a growing number of people within the LGBT community who don't agree with this ideology, especially gay and lesbian people, because we are the ones who are most likely to feel this dysphoria as children. For gay and lesbian children, or children who don't know that they're gay or lesbian yet, but later turn out to be when they mature, it's quite normal for us to feel disconnected with our gender. Next comment. Just wait till the MAPs want to be added. And the fact you know what MAP means is proof we're already on our way. MAP, for those of you who don't know, is minor attracted person. Basically, paedophile. And yes, the rebranding of paedophiles as minor attracted people is an attempt to normalize paedophilia. And it's true that they have sought to be included in the LGBTQ+ as one of the identities that make up our community. And we fought so hard back in the day to disassociate with paedophilia because that was an allegation that was frequently made against homosexuals. And we need to stop and ask ourselves, who is asking for this? Who is asking for MAPs to be included in the LGBTQ+? Because I don't believe it's paedophiles themselves. They are not open about being paedophiles. They're most generally in hiding. They don't want to out themselves and be potentially imprisoned. So they are a silent community, more or less. So somebody is behind this push. It's not gay people. It's not transgender people. I can't imagine that it's our own community seeking to embrace paedophilia. And the fact that we can't question this, the fact that if we even raise the subject, we're considered anti-LGBTQ or traitors to the LGBT, we should all be outraged by this and we should all be fighting this. So this again is part of the psyop that I'm talking about, because there are obviously external forces making these demands, and we have to be able to acknowledge it and challenge it if we want to rescue the LGBT. And I feel that it's beholden on all of us, everyone in this community, no matter which letter represents you, to first of all acknowledge that this is happening and to denounce it and to disavow it, because this association is so damaging that it could permanently erase all of the progress that we've made, all of the acceptance that we've achieved. Next comment. Oh good, living through the age of fascist queers. Cool, cool, cool. Don't you just get so tired of how these people throw the word fascist around willy-nilly? I get called fascist so often. Now and then I ask, how do you define fascist? Because people use this word against anybody who disagrees with them, obviously don't know what it actually means. A fascist is not somebody who disagrees with a leftist. And a lot of us actually take issue with the word queer. For a lot of us older gays, the word queer was a hateful slur, so we don't want to identify as queer. And it's fine if you do. A lot of the Gen Z LGBT community call themselves queer. But a lot of us don't consider ourselves queer because we are normal people, and the word queer means weird. But you've got to ask yourself, who are the fascists here? You're implying that I'm a fascist because you disagree with my opinion. It's so ironic that the people who call everybody a fascist are themselves the ones who support fascism because they're completely intolerant of opposing views. Next comment. It's really cute that you think throwing the weird queer folk under the bus will save you from people who think you need to be thrown in a cell just for existing. First of all, I'm not calling anybody weird or throwing anybody under a bus. Again, you totally misunderstand where I'm coming from. My post isn't attacking people, but attacking the psyop. But as for being thrown in a cell just for existing, homosexuality has been decriminalized for decades in the US. And in the UK, it was in 1967 when they legalized sodomy. Prior to that, you could be thrown in a cell for being gay. But your predecessors fought hard for the right. And this is something you don't seem to acknowledge. Sure, there are some parts of the world where you still can be thrown in a cell or even executed for being gay. But today's LGBTQ activists don't seem overly concerned with that while they're mourning their own victimhood. Here in the West, we have equal rights. So this idea of being thrown in a cell for existing is a figment of your imagination or your brainwashing. You could argue that we've lost the right in the US to transition children in line with most of Europe, which outlawed this already. But that is not a gay right. It was actually an act of protecting children's rights. Next comment. Hey, the ace kids didn't have anything to do with this, just saying. Ace meaning asexual. We got added to the army without really even asking, and we get included without anyone ever taking our narratives seriously. I hear you, and I empathize, and I like the way you brought up this point politely and without attacking me, because you're right. You guys got included in the LGBTQIA+ without consent, as did all of us. None of us were asked if we wanted to be included in this new alphabet soup. It just happened. That is the psyop I'm talking about. They came up with this new collective, throwing all of us together. So many people from so many different walks of life with completely different experiences. And none of us consented to this. And the idea of putting asexual people in the same group as homosexuals makes no sense at all. One group is defined by their sexual activity and the other by their lack of sexual activity. So what do they have in common? So I think you've expressed a sentiment that many of us are feeling right now. And it's a sentiment that's at the heart of the new LGB without the T movement, because gay, lesbian, and bi are sexualities. It's about sexual preference, whereas transgenderism is identity, and the two are completely different. Sexuality and gender identity are completely different issues, but we've all been lumped into this huge group with so little in common, and yet we're expected to all share the same views, and anybody who doesn't is deemed a traitor to the LGBTQ+. And that's why so many of us don't want to be a part of it anymore. It's impossible for so many diverse people to share the same experiences and political views. There's no expectation for all heterosexual people to share the same views. So why is this expectation put on us, this enforced groupthink? And that's why so many people want to opt out of the LGBT. And those who are pushing for LGB without the T are not opposed to trans people themselves. They have no issue with trans people identifying as trans or living how they want to live. They just don't want their views dictated to them by the LGBTQIA+ psyop, because we are individuals. We're not walking identity labels, and we don't support every aspect of this enforced groupthink ideology. Next comment, emphasis on old. And I replied to that one, yes indeed, I'm so blessed to be a 52-year-old Gen Xer with all the sweet memories I have of the pre-internet world of the 70s, 80s and 90s. So yeah, you can't attack me with the word old. I don't see it as an insult. I'm very happy with my age, and I really feel blessed that I got to experience the very best of the last 50 years, and I'm actually sad for those who didn't. As a Gen Xer, I got to experience an LGBT community that was loving and tolerant and unified and fun. We were a fun-loving community and we had the best times despite all of the adversity we faced. And I got to rub shoulders with people who fought really hard and achieved all of the rights that you get to enjoy today. Next comment. All of these LGBTQ plus people in the comment section bullying this man for speaking his opinion and facts, yet they always claim it's the right doing all the bullying and causing separation. Wow, I'm with you, and all of my gay friends feel the same as you. Thank you. So many gay, lesbian, bi, and transgender people don't agree with what they're seeing, but they get bullied by the likes of the 1,000 odd people in my comments who've been attacking me. Next comment. Shut up. You wouldn't have the freedoms you have now if it weren't for trans people, you selfish, vapid troll. When you call me a selfish, vapid troll and all the other insults I've had in my 1,000+ comments here, it goes right over the top of my head. Doesn't affect me, but it just makes you look intolerant and hateful. And your attitude is the reason why so many of us want nothing to do with the brainwash, psyoped community that is the reason why our acceptance has gone down. It's this exact attitude. First of all, telling people to shut up because you don't agree with their opinion. And what is this belief that if it weren't for trans people, we wouldn't have the freedoms we have? I have nothing against trans people. I've never expressed any disapproval of transgenderism. I'm fully supportive of my trans brothers and sisters. But no, it's not trans people who've given us the rights we have today. I don't know why you believe that. Is it because of that popular myth that Marsha Johnson threw the first brick Stonewall? Because throwing a brick isn't really a huge achievement. And Marsha wasn't even trans. She was a drag queen. And I'm not saying that, I'm not denigrating Marsha Johnson for being a transvestite, because there's nothing wrong with transvestitism. But cross-dressing and transgenderism are not the same thing. Next comment. All left coming out pretending that nothing is wrong in this community is wild. The house is on fire and you're still in denial when even amongst ourselves we cannot agree what a woman is or whether a child should be able to have breast surgery to affirm their perceived gender. Anyone who questions it is shut down and cancelled. Case in point, J.K. Rowling. She's entitled to her opinion. That is fascism, and these elements are driving people to vote extreme right. This is on you, the extreme left, polarizing people away from tolerance. Shame on you all. Absolutely. I agree with everything you've said there. Thank you. There is a reason that millions of voters moved from left to right over the last few years. It's the intolerance and the bigotry of the modern left and the LGBTQIA+. People with common sense and critical thinking and compassion simply cannot abide by it anymore. Next comment. I transitioned 12 years ago. It was literally less of a headache living trans back 10 years ago. People just thought, okay, you got treatment for your gender identity disorder. And that was that. No politics, nothing. Everyone just lived their lives. And that is the sentiment that I've heard from the trans people that I know. That it was actually easier to be trans before all of this nonsense. Before all of this polarizing identity politics that has turned normal, average people against us. And I say us collectively as lesbian, gay, bi, and trans people. Of all the people affected by this hostile movement, it's transgender people themselves who've been most harmed, and I really feel sorry for them. I totally empathize with them. And it's ironic that so many people think that I don't accept trans people or that I'm transphobic, when in fact I speak in their defense. I totally support their right to live how they want to live. And I have absolutely nothing against their choice to identify and live a meaningful life as the opposite gender. I think they deserve every right to be happy, to be accepted, and to be loved. The only aspect of transgenderism I have an issue with is teaching children that transitioning is right for them. That's a very serious decision to be made by an adult, because we go through so many phases of exploration in our childhood where we believe that we would be happier as this, that, or the other, because childhood is all about exploring in a safe environment without any undue pressures put on us to change anything about ourselves. It's about discovering who you are through exploring and experimenting with different roles, and that continues right into adulthood. So no child is ready to make such a grave decision to alter their body, just as they're not ready to have a tattoo. But anybody who decides to transition as an adult will always have my full support. It's as simple as that. So there's just a small selection of the comments I received on Instagram. There's over 1,000 more, including many really hateful ones that I didn't bother reading out. But I hope some of what I've said has struck a chord with you. And as ever, if you agree with me or disagree with me, do let me have your comments. I'm not going to call you names for disagreeing with me, unlike some of these people. Any successful community needs to be self-reflective and have accountability for its own actions. And if we see that something is wrong within our community, we have to be able to discuss it without being considered traitors. So do let me have your thoughts, and please give this video a like. And if you enjoyed this video, do watch this one too. And if you're not already doing so, please subscribe to my channel. As a new YouTuber, I really appreciate all of your support. Thank you very much.